Welcome back to the Spotlight. I am your host, Asir, and we are sitting here with Attorney Gerald Griggs, and we're going to go back to the domestic violence situation. I was explaining to him during the break how I saw a young lady. She was about 18 years old, and she had been assaulted by her partner, and they both were arrested. That woman, that young woman, will now have an arrest record. How can she, even if she's found not guilty of doing any type of violence or anything, she's still going to have that arrest record?
Well, I mean, if she's successful in getting the case dismissed, we have record restriction in Georgia, which was expungement. Now it's record restriction. So it could be removed from her record. But what I would say to victims of domestic violence is, Georgia has a primary aggressor type statute for its family violence, batteries, and its aggravated assault. So the police are going to try to determine who's the primary aggressor. And that's why sometimes they arrest both parties when they can't figure out who is the primary aggressor. That's why when the first signs of violence happen, you need to go get a TPO, a temporary protective order. You can go to the judge and tell the judge in any of the 159 counties what happened, and they can issue a temporary protective order, then have a hearing where they can issue a permanent protective order. It's for a year, and then you can be stretched a little bit longer if there's still issues of violence. That way you can get away. You can also apply for a private person warrant. You can go to a magistrate court judge and say, hey, this happened to me. You outline the probable cause. They can issue a warrant application hearing, and a warrant can be issued for the person. So you have steps that you can take. There are a lot of services for individuals. The Women's Resource Center is a great service for victims. It provides housing and some type of financial services to get you out of the situation. So there are places you can go and people you can seek out for help. Please do that because, again, black women are suffering domestic violence at a higher rate. It's almost 100% more rate of this happening in our community that don't report it. You have to report it so you have a paper trail and you can get the protective mechanisms in place to help keep you safe.
And they don't report it because the fear of going to jail, and being re-victimized, especially that woman who may have, it's a life or death situation, and she's just shot and killed her attacker. So now she's faced with going to jail. And some of them, in some jails, I read it was up to 94% of the women's population had some type of sexual or physical abuse, and they were serving times 2-to-1 to a man that would kill a woman. And it was just astonishing to me, and majority, again, minority women. So if you think you're in that type of situation, you can get help. In some of the counties south of here, you have the Haven House, and they'll help you with a TPO. And always watch your back wherever you're going, because that TPO only helps you within 150 feet. So just remember, a gun still can harm.
And make sure you document it, because again, if there's a pattern and something happens, you have proof that there was a pattern, and you'll be more likely to be justified, because you won't just be going on your word. You will have a documented history. You have a documented history of TPO, documented history of police reports, and hopefully they'll take steps. But if something does happen, that lawyer can now use that documentation to show the state fails you and you had to take appropriate steps.
We're good. We're still going to keep going a little bit more. I'm sorry, I was thrown off a little bit. I agree with him. If you, like he said, do what you have to do to get some help, and always still remember your Miranda rights, because once again, when that officer comes and he doesn't know who did what, anything you say and do can and will be used against you. So always make sure that you reach out to an attorney. I want to talk about white collar versus blue collar crime. Someone asked me to ask you about that. They wanted you to explain it, and then they wanted to understand why someone like a Martha Stewart can say, I'll just pay restitution and not get a lot of crime, and then someone else who may have been guilty of selling drugs gets more time.
Well, you have to understand that most of your white collar crimes are federal crimes, and so there's a different guidelines, the federal guidelines. And then they are money crimes. So you can always pay restitution and make somebody whole. But the drug crimes are more crimes that affect the community, at least this is the allegation that our lawmakers make, affect the community on a bigger scale. And so they must be punished harsher, I guess is the argument. So, you know, when you're dealing with a more sophisticated defendant, they have the ability to pay back. But when you're dealing with individuals that may or may not be, you know, selling drugs to provide for their home or to provide a better life, you know, once that money's been used up, they don't have anything to pay anymore with, and they're more likely to go to prison for long periods of time. So I don't believe there's white collar and blue collar crime. It's all crime, and it all should be treated the same. We really trying to, you know, affect the crime rate. Maybe we should stop allowing these day camp type prisons, you know, day spa where you go and check in, check back out, if that's the real point. And again, most of those particular individuals who commit the white collar crimes have the resources to pay for lawyers and to pay restitution and to get out of the situation. So I do agree, white collar crime is a problem. It should be treated the same way. But right now, if you don't, again, participate in the system by voting and sitting on juries, this is going to continue to happen.
Retainers. Let's get to retainers. We're coming up on the close of the show, so I want to make sure you guys know why it's important that even your family has an attorney that they can call. You never know when something is going to happen. So let's talk about the retainers. Attorneys have a retainer, and some of them just have flat rate fees or what have you. Which one is better?
I believe it's better to always have an attorney on retainer, because the retainer will be a lot less than the flat fee. So let's say you have a family attorney, you're not expecting to get in any trouble. I mean, everybody says that when they meet me, oh, I'm never going to need you, man. Yeah, okay, let's be realistic. It's a high likelihood you're going to be arrested for something. DUI, you might end up with a traffic offense, all the way up to a murder. You need to have that relationship. And I mean, it's just like insurance. What do you think insurance is for? Insurance is to help pay to lower your liability. Well, what is the greatest liability of life? Freedom, or in fact, your life. So I think you should engage an attorney. I mean, some of them, it could be as low as, you know, $200-300 a month. It could be as high as $1,000 a month. Depends on your level of exposure and your level of liability. But once you're paying that retainer, if something happens, you already have that built in, and now you can just go to them with the problem. They already have a relationship with you, and you can call them when you're on the side of the road. At that moment, the police are asking you, do you want to waive your rights? Well, hold on, let me call my attorney. I can call my attorney because he's on retainer. He picks up the phone, give the phone to the officer. I've done that a couple times. Person drives home safely after I spoke to the officer. You know, that's the type of peace of mind that having an attorney on retainer can provide for you. And it also gives you access to that attorney at any given point where you can ask your questions.
I agree. I agree with him wholeheartedly. You should build a rapport with your attorney and him with you. Let's see. Can you give them your address and your office address and phone number and social media?
It's a technology age, so I can be reached on all social media at Attorney Griggs, ATTORNEYGRIGGS. All social media are at www.geraldagriggs.com. Office number is 404-633-6590. And you know, all social media again, because this is the new platform that you can get in touch with people instantaneously. You know, also on Facebook at Attorney Griggs. I do check my Facebook, so that's the easiest way to get me is on Facebook or on IG. I'm always on IG because everything's happening on IG. So at Attorney Griggs on all social media.
Does anyone in the studio we have studio guests, does anyone in the studio has any questions for Attorney Griggs? Go ahead.
Well, if you're going to, you have to go to a place that, what do you call it, a home that